reliable transportation and cost of transportation becomes a barrier to education. And internet is a great avenue to connect to courses online.
This is another bonus episode in our special Community Broadband Bits podcast series, Why NC Broadband Matters. I'm Lisa Gonzalez with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance in Minneapolis, Minnesota. NC Broadband Matters is a North Carolina nonprofit. Their mission is to attract, support, and champion the universal availability of affordable, reliable, high-capacity internet access, which is necessary for thriving local communities, including local businesses and a local workforce, so each can compete in the global economy. The group has created the North Carolina chapter of CLIC, the Coalition for Local Internet Choice. We're working with NC Broadband Matters to produce this series, which focuses on issues affecting people in North Carolina, and those issues also impact people in other regions. While Christopher was in North Carolina for the Reconnect Forum, which was organized by the Institute for Emerging Issues at North Carolina State University, he had the chance to interview Dr. Jeff Cox and Zach Barraclough from Wilkes Community College. In this interview, they discuss how community college and distance learning are playing a key role in improving economic mobility in the state, especially in rural areas. We want to thank organizers of the forum at the Institute for Emerging Issues for setting up an event that offered a great chance for advocates, experts, and scholars to connect. Now here's Christopher with Dr. Jeff Cox and Zach Barraclough.
Welcome to another episode of the Community Broadband Bits podcast. I'm Chris Mitchell with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Today I'm coming to you from NC State, North Carolina State, where the Institute for Emerging Issues is having a wonderful day-long program called Reconnect to Technological Opportunity. And this is one of a series of shows we're doing. Right now, I'm very excited to be talking with Dr. Jeff Cox, the president for Wilkes Community College in northwestern North Carolina. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christopher. Glad to be here with you.
We also have Zach Barraclough, the Vice President of Strategy, also at Wilkes Community College. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
So our audience, if they're longtime listeners, has heard multiple interviews with Eric Kramer, Greg Coltrane, folks that are from Wilkes Telephone Cooperative, which has done a great job of connecting that part of the country. We haven't actually spoken to anyone from Skyline. So let's just make a quick note that that your region is very well connected by these two providers. And Wilkes has a historic telephone cooperative that has expanded with a company called River Street, and people can dig in the archives to learn more about that. But if you don't mind, tell me just briefly about Skyline, just so people have a sense of it.
Well, let me start with Wilkes Community College. Our service area is Wilkes, Ashe, and Allegheny counties. So Wilkes Communications covers the Wilkes County part of our service area, as well as other areas. And Skyline, SkyBest actually covers most of Ashe and Allegheny counties, as well as other areas, other counties. But those are the two in our service area that they cover.
And now I think what we'll be talking about today is how this dramatic, just it's hard to overstate the amount of coverage and access you have for a rural part of any state in the United States. And so we'll be talking about how that really has changed the way you do your mission, right?
Right. Well, we think it's of critical importance for our area. We look at the map of the state and see how very well covered northwestern North Carolina is. All three counties, really, Wilkes, Ashe, and Allegheny. Very rural areas that people would not imagine have strong broadband, but we do. And so that's really part of our being here today and being part of this Emerging Issues Forum is, how do we leverage that broadband to improve the economic mobility for the people in our service area. That's really the mission of the community college and the work we've been doing for the last year and a half on a new strategic plan is, how can the college best play a role in helping kind of improve the economic mobility of the people who we serve. And we think this broadband connectivity is a huge, huge part of that.
So, Zach, let me ask you, what does that look like when you operationalize that? What sort of things are you doing to bring that economic benefit to the community now that you have this connectivity?
So there's a couple of angles we're taking to approach this. One is entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurs are by nature folks that are inclined towards taking advantage of opportunity. We have historically a very entrepreneurial region, and the community college is the proud home of the Small Business Center, which is a catalyst and a source of counseling and training for small businesses and entrepreneurs in the region. And so right now we're working on a new platform and a new program called Startup Northwest NC that'll cover our 3 counties, Ashe, Wilkes, Allegheny. And it is an aggregation of resources and community and counseling and mentoring for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs in that region. So that's one first step that we're launching on March 10th, actually, of this year. And that is partially about equipping folks with tools, whether it's training or access to capital or other things. It's connecting them with one another. Also, it's telling the story of our region. So we're featuring about 12, 13 entrepreneurs from that 3-county area, and all of them, from agriculture to product development to professional services, leverage the internet in the process of promoting and expanding and kind of managing their business. So that's one of our first steps, is really focused on the entrepreneurs. But in our day and age, with such an increase in the freelance economy, that's the other piece that we're looking really closely at, is how do we identify the folks who have already found our region? Because we do enjoy great connectivity, folks that have found our region and are doing just fascinating work as software engineers and consultants, and we have university professors, and we have data analysts, we have instructional designers, we have folks that are in all of these kind of niche professional services industries and that have found us. We want to do a better job as a region of telling our story and finding them proactively. So that's another piece of it, is kind of cataloging those stories and getting that out there. And then for those individuals and the population in that 3-county area that maybe doesn't have the skill or the awareness of opportunity available to them, as a community college, we serve the educational needs of virtually everybody across the continuum of age and ability and interest in that 3-county area. And so we want to be innovative and look ahead and assess where folks are at, where the opportunity is at, and how we can get them connected with it and equipped for it.
Now, I'm curious, Dr. Cox, are you also recruiting people? Did I understand that correctly, that you're in a position in which you're looking outside of that 3-county area to give people a sense of the opportunities that are available within your region?
No, you're absolutely right. I think this opportunity for us here with the Institute for Emerging Issues, it's going to give us the opportunity to showcase how you can have a great career and live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. We say we live in God's country up there in the northwest part of the state, and it is. It's just really, really a beautiful part of the world. But historically, I was born and raised there in that region in Allegheny County, and happy to be able to move back and live in that region. A lot of our young people, though, historically have felt like to pursue economic opportunity, they had to leave and go to the Charlottes and the Raleigh and other places. So this broadband connectivity is a real leveler in that you don't have to necessarily live in Charlotte to work for a big company in Charlotte. You don't have to live down here in the RTP to work for a company that's based here. So yes, we're putting out the message. Northwest NC is telework ready, and we're trying to recruit businesses to consider being part of the solution to this rural-urban divide that we have. We believe strongly that if only 4 or 5 major urban centers in North Carolina are prospering and rural North Carolina is dying, that's not sustainable for our state. So we think this broadband connectivity can be part of the solution if we can get some companies bold enough to really set up their policies to allow for more telework. If you've got a job that can be done remotely, we think you ought to be helping to let your workers go to more rural parts of the state. We're convinced that a lot of the people who live in Raleigh and Charlotte and battle that traffic every day would much rather be doing that work at the serenity of our beautiful Northwest North Carolina. We just want to encourage folks to take that opportunity if it's their choice already, and for companies to consider policies that would allow for that. and that alleviates some overcrowding in our cities that are just exploding with population too. We think it's a win-win.
Well, let me ask you sort of a devil's advocate question, which is to say, aside from the population pressures, why doesn't it make sense to just say, let's just focus on having really high quality broadband and opportunity in our cities? That's where most of the people are. Why don't we just let people who want to live in a more rural area decide to do that on their own? And so what if the population crashes in rural counties? Why is that a problem for the United States of America or for North Carolina?
Well, I think, our cities are already straining from being overpopulated. You look at the average commute time and the amount of stress and pressure people feel just trying to make that journey into the city, and then look at the rest of the country, the rest of our state. The vast majority is rural. So if we continue down a path where more and more folks are migrating toward the cities and fewer people are living in the remote, more rural parts of our state and our country, it's just not sustainable over time. We have to have folks who are living out in the rural areas, and a lot of folks would prefer that. Mm-hmm. Certainly, some folks, obviously would prefer to live in the cities, and we have some of that with young people. They feel like they need to get away from where they grew up, but many of them want to come back home.
Yeah, often when they have children.
Yes, often when they are ready to have a family, then that's one of the real calling cards for our area. We have great public schools. It's a low crime rate. It's a great place to raise a family. But the challenge has been the economic opportunity. You have all too often folks have had to make a decision. Do I want to make more money, or do I want to live where I really want to live, where I have my family ties and roots and this connection to the beautiful area up there where we live? So the fact that now we've got this broadband connectivity and so much more work can be done remotely, it's changed what's been a disadvantage to our area, being rural and a little bit removed from the major interstates. It makes it tough to compete when you're talking about manufacturing and jobs where you're going to be hauling a product up and down our mountains. But now with the broadband connectivity, that kind of flips it on its head, and we actually have an advantage there. So we've got the connectivity in very rural parts of our communities, and there's nothing that would prohibit anyone from being able to access that and take advantage of it economically.
Wonderful. Let me ask Zach, and then I want to come back to you, Jeff, to see if you want to add anything to this. But I'm curious, does your community college offer courses in a different way, or do people participate differently because the region has such good connectivity? I think there's a lot of community colleges who would love to have that, and maybe they don't have a sense of what it would be like once they do. But has it changed the way you do business? Yeah,
it's constantly evolving, just as post-secondary is evolving across the nation in every context. But for us, there has been this recognition that we have access to internet. So then the next question becomes, do we have enough? Well, I'll say this before even getting into internet connectivity. One of the barriers to education, to post-secondary education for our citizens, is transportation. We live in a rural community, and transportation barriers are very real for our population.
For people who don't own their own vehicles, I'm guessing.
For people who own their own vehicles and people who don't, but just unreliable vehicles. Mm-hmm. And we do have a high level of poverty in that region. And even those that are not in poverty per se, by definition, are there's a good portion that are struggling. And so reliable transportation and cost of transportation becomes a barrier to education. And internet is a great avenue to connect to courses online. So over the course of the last 5 years, we have increased the proportion of courses and programs and credentials that we're offering online. And of course, with that, it's not just as simple as putting course material online. We have to prepare our instructors to teach it well online. And so we've instituted a new program, professional development program, specifically aimed at increasing the skill set of and engagement level of instructors teaching online, as well as some of the wraparound services, academic wraparound services for students that help them with tutoring and academic support and other supports.
Jeff, I'm curious. One of the things that I've done, and I've actually looked at things in North Dakota and South Dakota, our two other North and South states, and where there's better broadband access, we've still seen declining populations. And I was hoping that it would be simple. Nothing in life is ever that simple. But I'm curious, given, let's just assume that that's the case, that you're facing multiple trends that are discouraging for people moving to your area. What are you doing to try to overcome that?
Well, we know that for particularly our young people who are leaving, there's a draw to the cities. They have more nightlife. The breweries are becoming a really popular thing with millennials. So while we have the Blue Ridge Parkway and the New River, the Kerscott Reservoir, the big lake, and world-class mountain bike trails, we've got that part really in spades. So we're great on all the scenic beauty and the outdoor recreation. But we know we still have work to do in our communities to create the kind of entertainment venues and just the sort of the nightlife, those kinds of things that where young people want to be able to congregate and come together. So that part in all of our communities we're working on to create that sense of place where people will want to come back and start their families and hopefully live and stay until they retire.
I just wanted to throw in something. As a longtime reader of Outside Magazine, a lover of the outdoors, it's not just a matter of having something to do on the weekends or to get away, a nice trip. It's healthy. It's just, It makes you live a life that is healthier and you feel better throughout it. So there's a lot to that. But I want to ask you a different question to wrap up. And that's, I strongly believe community colleges are really important, particularly now in a time when it seems like the winners are winning more than ever, and the losers who are left behind have less opportunity. What more do we need to do for community colleges to succeed? Like, what other resources do you need in the current environment?
It always is about resources. When you look at the number of people that are served through our community colleges, and then compare our budgets to our universities and even our K-12 partners, the amount of resources are lagging behind. We're at a critical place with faculty and staff salaries at the community college. It's our number one budget item among our President's Association for our legislature in this coming legislative session. I tell our legislators, who do you want to train the nurse that's going to be at your bedside when you're having some kind of critical procedure? Do you want the very best and brightest person being that instructor? And if so, then we have to compete with the local hospitals to pay that person enough to come over and be an instructor at the community college. And right now, we're just struggling to be competitive with that area. So we have to address that issue. But then community colleges also, we have an historic record of being nimble and being agile, being able to change and meet the demand. And I think that's going to be more and more important as things continue to evolve and change. We have to be at the forefront and be ready to change and meet the needs of our business and industry so that we can train, the employees that they need to continue to be successful.
And I just want to put an exclamation point on that, I think, because people don't always realize that we have this. People realize that we've had this long period of economic expansion for a lot of us.
Right.
And that really puts salary pressures on schools to be able to keep people who may have opportunities to get a lot more money if they were to leave teaching.
Yeah. And for a lot of our folks, we know we're never going to be as competitive as someone who could go out in the private sector. You think about an applied engineering instructor who could go out and be at a high level position in a company, or a skilled nurse with a master's degree, what they can make. We're never going to completely match that. There has to be a component for someone they just want to teach and they just want to be in that environment and shape the future in that way. But we've got to be more competitive for sure.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you luck. I think you're living in the future of North Carolina, and with good work and hopefully 5 or 10 years, all the rest of North Carolina will look like your region does, and they'll be able to learn from your experiences and how to take advantage of it.
Thank you very much for having us, Christopher.
Thanks for tuning in to this bonus episode in our Why NC Broadband Matters podcast series, and for listening to the Community Broadband Bits podcast from the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Remember to follow Christopher on Twitter. His handle is @CommunityNets. And if you follow NC Hearts Gigabit on Twitter, you'll tap into all the NC Broadband Matters material. Thanks to Shane Ivers of SilvermanSound.com for the series music, What's the Angle, licensed through Creative Commons. And thank you for listening. Until next time.